Hey everyone, it's Norm Farrar, aka the Beard Guy here, and welcome to another Lunch with Norm, the Amazon FBA and e-commerce podcast.
Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm. Lunch with
Okay, we're going to have a great show today. I'm bringing back not only a guest, but a very good friend of mine, and we're going to be talking about COVID, post-COVID, and event marketing and the event marketing industry, and the importance of networking too. Our guest has worked as a leader and an industry specialist for over 20 years in the IT innovation as an IT innovator. He is a serial entrepreneur and technical visionary who has driven several startups and business expansions, including I've been a partner with him a couple of times. And he focuses on strategic planning, business development, world-class marketing events, and brings leadership to oh my gosh, what is this? I'm not even going to say this. Anyways, my buddy is Josh Shepard, and I can't wait to talk to him. He is an awesome guy. I know a lot of people who are listening have heard me talk about Josh because I think he's an amazing guy, an amazing entrepreneur, and wait till we get to talk to him. But first, before we get into talking or speaking with him, let's give a big thank you to our sponsor, Global Wired Advisors, a leading investment bank focused on optimizing the business sales process. For more information, contact Chris and his team over at globalwiredadvisors.com. Kelsey, where are you?
Hello. Happy Wednesday.
Happy.
Yeah. And welcome our Beard Nation. We have Jessica Rabbit, Manny, and Simon. I'm going to just give a little sneak peek into our special episode next week with episode 200. Manny and Jessica Rabbit, aka Rosalind, are going to be on our Beard Nation appreciation episodes. So we can't wait to have them on. And yeah, you'll be able to meet them face to face on our podcast on Wednesday. So tune in for that. Also, we have a special episode on Friday. We have Michael Kurtz joining us. He's a branding expert. Anyone who's been watching the podcast for a while knows these episodes. These are the logo reviews. So if you have your logo, any branding, packaging that you want to send in to the podcast, we will do a review and critique, give you feedback on it live on the podcast on Friday. So send it to me at k@lunchwithnorm.com, and you'll be able to see your logo up here, and we promise to be nice about it. If you're interested in finding the full episodes or highlights from today's episode or past episodes, go over to our YouTube channel, Norman Farrar. That's where everything is. We have almost 200 episodes, as I said before, as well as our Facebook group is Lunch with Norm, Amazon FBA and e-commerce collective. It's a great place to ask your questions about the show and just hang out with the community. And welcome Faye, welcome Rad. And I want to start off today's show with a question. What are your thoughts on the events in e-commerce and Amazon? Have you been going to any? Have you been doing online seminars? What are your thoughts? Put them over into the comment sections, and we'll get started with the show.
This is timely because I just got back from $1 Billion Seller Summit. Oh, and by the way, Kevin is coming up, I think, next week, isn't he? Kevin King.
Yeah, on Friday. Kevin King.
Yeah,
big episode.
That'll be good. Oh yeah, I guess I'll have to drill him on some of the stuff we did at 3:00 in the morning. No, I might not bring that up. But okay, so let's throw all your information. If you have questions or comments, over to the right and sit back, relax, grab that cup of coffee, and let's get into this episode. Welcome, Mr. Josh.
Norm, it's great to be here. Great to see you.
I wasn't even going to go on. Like I could have gone on with this bloody intro for about 10 pages.
You can tell it was written by a PR person, I think.
It was written probably by you. I mean, I didn't say you did not have an ego, but
I'm sorry. No. Broke up there a little. I couldn't understand what you said.
I said it was probably written by you because I never said you didn't have an ego.
Yeah, you missed that.
Yeah.
Move on.
So this is something that, it kind of leads into what we're talking about. It's all about networking. And I have had a great business partner. I got to meet you, and I'm talking about you specifically, through other people, through networking. And it's continuous. I just came back from a show. I was at a conference last night. I just flew in. And again, more networking. And it's so important. Like, you don't know where your next business opportunity is going to be, friendship, who's going to lead you to where. But that's how we met. And, we had a great little business going. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to say that because that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on. And for those of us who don't know who you are, like, you're not on the Amazon circuit, you're this incredible, huge entrepreneur. And, you've never been through the Amazon circuit. You might be now after this show. But,
maybe this will be the hook.
Why don't you tell everybody a bit about yourself?
Sure. So I mean, like you said, Norm, we met a long time ago. I don't want to say how many years. It was a long time ago. We jumped right into projects, and it was very much about taking that chance. Like, we met, we sort of had some kind of synergy there, and we just enjoyed each other. And then that's kind of that's the catalyst of you never know what's going to come of things. So you just try things and try new things, try new ventures, and nothing ventured, nothing gained. Right. So, I mean, that's where you and I started. I kind of started out of my life. I kind of came out of university, and then through some twist of fate, with another friend of mine, we started a company that ran corporate events. It was called Net Events. And we landed the contract as two young kids to run every event that Microsoft did across the country. And it was just crazy. Like, why on earth would they give this to us? But we did this, and that was kind of where we got our start, by jumping right into the deep end, and we got into events there. So we did the big Comdex shows for them. And this was when the Comdex, they were putting a lot of money into that. They had Windows World running, and they took over the Rogers Center where the Toronto Blue Jays play. Their booth was the infield. Like, it was big. So, and it took up the whole convention center and the baseball diamond and field as well. And that was the show. So I don't know, it was pretty fun. We did everything at those days. And then from there, I went into a lot of consulting work on events and applications. Got into some application development because it kind of went hand in hand. There was a lot of software that had to do with the event industry. I kind of landed in agency work, doing work for a lot of the big tech companies that were in the world, like Dell EMC and Dell Technologies now, Microsoft, like we said, Salesforce, Samsung, Facebook. Like, these were our bread and butter clients, and we were creating events, amazing event experiences for them, for their either customers or partners or internal or external, like creating these massive event experiences all across the country. And we just kind of had a really nimble team of about 15 of us. And we had a team of, project managers. And we had a team that did registration, a team that did the production and things like that. And it was so much fun. So, I mean, then I guess after a lot of years of that, maybe 15 years of being in the event industry, I went over and I joined a SaaS company, and the senior leadership team there. It was an LA-based company called Swoogo, and they make an amazing product for creating I guess it's all the logistics of the event, organizing the registrations and the landing pages and the agenda builders and executing virtual events, that sort of thing. So I was doing partner programs and things like that for them. It's been a lot of fun, and now I'm ready for what's next. So I'm looking at maybe starting another new venture. So yeah, always on the chain, always on the move, trying to find new things. But I think that's probably more, but that's sort of the background.
So for us that can remember back in the day, going to a trade show and waiting for to get registered used to be a nightmare. I mean, it was horrible. Yeah. Like, people don't remember. It was terrible. And then your app or your software streamlined that whole process, which, I can remember, like, going to a show and it was like, where's the line? It's gone. Like there's nothing left. And it was all based on your technology.
Well, there's a lot of technologies out there, a lot of solutions for that now. But I think it's more than just the solution, because like you said, the old trade shows, they were very much, they'd open it up to the mass audience, and you get all these people registering, and it was but you weren't getting the right audience. You get all these people coming in, and they all just wanted the free stuff that you were giving away, right? And you weren't targeting properly. So I think for one thing, it's gone away. There is still a place for that kind of trade show, but a lot of the B2B trade shows and the smaller B2C that are very targeted towards your partners and your customers, we've gotten a lot better at targeting those. So the sheer numbers have gone down. So I think that's one reason that you don't see as many the lines there. But I think doesn't matter about the tools. It's more about the experience you have. So if I've got 800 people or 3,000 people showing up this morning, and I've got from 8 till 10 to check them in, plan your venue. Like you say, well, in order to do that with no lines or nobody waiting more than a minute, then I know that I'm going to need this many counters and this many printers and this many staff. And I think it's an area of events that people overlook sometimes. They just think, we'll give people a name badge. But when people arrive, they're excited about coming to an event. And then that's a first impression. Like they're the ambassadors, even if somebody thinks, oh, I'm just asking, can I get your last name? Oh, it's Farrar. Yeah, you're here, check in, print a badge. You're the ambassador of that event. And you're giving that person the first impression. So putting a little bit of thought and time and money behind making that when the people walk in to attend, that area actually looks good, has branding or decor with it. They have an amazing experience that just flows through really easily. All that stuff, it just adds to it. And that hits what you're saying, that you don't get the lines.
Right. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to let people know that we are having a giveaway today. And the giveaway is going to be, I'll mention it a few times during the episode, but it's going to be, and Kelsey doesn't know this yet, but it's going to be a 1-month giveaway for the Centurion League. Plus, it's a combo, plus a mug in our M&Ms. People don't know that we have custom beard M&Ms. It doesn't sound that sexy, but they're good. Anyways, that's going to be it. Hashtag Wheel of Kelsey. If you like to enter twice, just hit 2 people up, tag 2 people, and you'll get a second entry. So the other thing I want to just mention to people here too is I want to get your feelings on, going to events. Are you going to events? Are you, what are you seeing at the events? What do you like, what you don't like right now? Has anything changed? Would you rather stay with virtual events? So throw in, I really want to make this engaging. Josh is here. He's an incredible guy. You can throw any question at him, well, almost any question. And he's pretty good at answering them. All right. So first question I got, the one I want to lead with, Josh, is about COVID. And, how has it changed the industry?
That's a huge question. It's a good one though. Like back, what was it? Was it March 2020, something like that? Everything canceled. Like 100% of events got canceled.
Yeah.
Right. Like the bottom dropped out of that industry, and it wasn't about. It wasn't a choice. It was reinvent. If you're running events, you need to reinvent yourself. Do some sort of pivot to virtual. Do something. But COVID demanded that we reimagine events. It wasn't like a new technology came along that people slowly adopted. I think that's actually what people are doing. They're talking about hybrid events and return to in person and all that kind of stuff now. But those aren't a specific date. Those will happen as they happen, and people will adopt them or not. When COVID hit, it was not a choice. It was, these companies and in fact, the agency I was with, dropped everything. Like we had huge number of events booked, and you said down by Austin, you're around there. I had a big one booked there. We had a whole hotel and convention center booked out for a big event. Everything was canceled, and everything just stopped. So I think what it did, it gave us sort of an opportunity to move out of our comfort zones and to sort of start expanding and learning new things. And I would say one of the big things it did is I think it didn't hurt the industry. I think it accelerated it. I think that where we are and maybe even beyond events into like remote working and digital workspaces and everything else, I think, maybe it pushed us 10 years. We were headed this way anyway, to get more virtual, more homework, more online collaboration, things like that. We were headed that way, but it was going to be like, 10 more years out. And I think COVID just accelerated the world and said, okay, now we're going to get there and we're going to do this. So it gave us this big opportunity to pivot into how can we create content for people that's engaging, that they want to join virtually, so that we're still going to get the return. Like the whole thing about events is you measure in your brand awareness and what's your ROI, what's your, do you get new sales? There's got to be a purpose why you're running the event. So how do you recreate that virtually, or attempt to, like we had to do something. So I think that was kind of the main thing that it did to the industry, was accelerate it rather than drop it. However, I mean, now that we're kind of getting towards having COVID under control, it's now, let's look at what can we do? What can we get back to the things we were good at from in-person events? Because everybody had in-person events locked, and that's where the engagement was. That's where people made connections and had that emotional connection. You can't beat an in-person event. But I think it's also short-sighted to say, throw away, what did we learn from virtual events? There's a lot of good things that can be done there. So now it's sort of, let's take all the things together and forge on.
One of the things I really liked at the event I just came back from, everybody's safety, everybody's thinking about their safety. Everybody's worried about COVID. Mm-hmm. And so when we registered, you had a period to go and register, and you had to get a COVID test there. So they did a rapid COVID test. You went in, you waited, you had to have a green wristband. If you didn't want to, don't come to the event. And so it just gave everybody that bit of security that you're going into an event. If people wanted to wear a mask, they could. I don't think anybody did, but you had that green wristband. Mm-hmm. And that's something that post-COVID, I think, we're looking at right now, is how do you get people to break? Because, and the reason for this is we went to another show. It was a great show, a big show, but because it was the first one, there were so many in-person kind of, all right, after the show, we're going to go and do this. We're going to break bread, which is a major part of networking. But there was a ton of people that caught COVID, and I think that's going to be something that's got to be implemented to get around the fear factor of going back to in-person events. Is, at least going out to a restaurant, who knows who has COVID, but at least the people within the event, have a green band. So that's going to be a change. I think that's going to be coming up fairly soon.
I think you're right. I think that, people may be mentally thinking, oh, I want to get back to in-person events to get that connection again. But then when you actually show up at one of these, you still want that reassurance. People, you tend to forget maybe social skills or things like that. And when you get there, maybe you're ready to go to a breakout session that has, 20 people in it or something, or 50 people, but you might not be ready to sit in a main stage auditorium or some big banquet hall where you've got a keynote speaker and you've got 2,000 people in the room and everybody's side by side in the audience. And they might not be ready for that. So, that's kind of the opportunity where we have to look at the mindset of the audience who's coming and keep their safety. I like the idea of the wristbands. I know that we've talked about doing lots of different things for checks and showing proof of vaccination, things like that. I even heard of one company that's doing, they're tied into the airlines. So everybody who flew in, they can check the airlines that yes, you were, and you proved that you had your test and everything. And then you didn't, it sort of relayed that information, that check mark that you were allowed into the event without having to do further testing there. So a lot of people are coming up with some unique ideas around how to keep people safe. And there's two things. There's sort of how to keep people safe, and then there's also how to give the perception of their safety. Like people, you can assure them, yes, we've taken all these precautions, but you want somebody to walk in and feel that confidence and feel that safety. Like you said, with the wristbands, people would walk in and they'd see other people's wristbands. So that was kind of a visual indicator that, oh, good, all the people around me are protected or negative, that I don't have to stress too much.
Yeah, and also when we were in the event, so there was probably, I would say there's probably 6 feet between each person still. So we weren't close together, maybe a little bit less. And there was also wipes and hand sanitizer on each desk. So that's another layer. So the company, or who, it was Kevin King's BDSS, I mean, they put a lot of thought to making sure that people that were traveling in, you know, felt comfortable going to the event. And I saw Simon's comment here about, yes, decline, exhibitions, trade shows have been on the decline. I don't know what the stats are on that, but I think in our industry, in the e-com industry, I don't know if it's a decline. I think it'll probably be on an increase because there's so many people getting into e-com. They want to learn, and they go to the events like for education. But what they miss or what they forget about this is the I say it too many times, but the networking. It's so important. Like going out and breaking bread. There's nothing more important than that. I met a guy who I've been a huge fan of this guy for years. And he flew in from China. And I got to sit down, talk to him. I've got his email. I've got his contact information. We've become friends through this conference. This is huge because it's one of these guys. It's like you, Josh. I'm a huge admirer, and but you get to meet these people, and I would never have had the chance. I couldn't have just said, "Hey, I want to talk to you." It was because we broke bread one night and we got along. Our personalities kind of synced up.
Yeah, that's a big thing with that networking component. And actually, I was just going to go back. You made me chuckle. I remember you were saying that they had the hand sanitizer and stuff on the tables. Back in March or February, one of the last events I was running, it was in Toronto for a big women's network that we did. And it was about 1,000 people there. And that was the time that, everybody was clamping down with COVID. And I remember going out and sending some people, they went out to try and buy hand sanitizers to put on the tables and stuff, and nowhere. Like they just were not, everything was sold out everywhere. And one of the girls was flying back from an event she was doing down in the southern states somewhere. And I remember she showed up and she had a whole bag of them that she had got, and she had walked around the airport seeing them all and grabbing all the hand sanitizer, putting them in her bag. And then she brought them all to the event. So she ripped off all the hand sanitizer from the airport and just to bring it back so we could pull off the event.
Oh man, should have called. I could have got you some.
Yeah, it'd be $50 a bottle. I know.
Yeah, for you.
For me, special. That's good. Nice.
So going back, one of the other things that it's very hard, and I want to talk about the company that you were just with. I think made significant changes in this, but for most virtual events, so people said, okay, we can't get out to these networking events or these events, let's go virtual. And they'll do a Zoom thing, or they'll do a StreamYard webinar.
Yeah.
But for the most part, a lot of them failed. Like a lot of them just came on, they'd have the speaker, a lot of them were pre-recorded, so they'd come on, you press a button, but they left out that breakout room, or they left out the ability. And even at that, you're not getting that same sort of feel as you would at a live event, but they failed at this because a lot of them just broke out that. You pay $199, you pay $99, some were free, but they didn't give you the most important part. So what have you seen like with virtual events right now?
So it's interesting. Like when we started off, like you said, people would record content and they'd say, oh, we run a Zoom meeting. There's an online event. And it was sort of like the difference. I kind of related it to like something like Netflix. It's pushing content at you. You might be able to pick which one you want to go or watch, but but it's just pushing content at you. It's not engaging. And the difference is going from something that just is a one-way push, which is like a recorded webinar that you just kind of tune in and watch a video, and it's more of like a YouTube that you're just, absorbing content, versus something that you're actually engaging with and communicating with other people. And it's really, really tough to do. One of the things that I did was we went and tried to create virtual experiences, like graphical experiences that allowed, like we hired some gaming graphic artists who would use these products that you use to create 3D video games, and then create these spaces so it felt like somebody walked into a lobby and then click on the main screen and walk into the main stage, that kind of stuff. So it added a little bit more, but realistically, that's fluff. Like, it's not, that's a gimmick, right, to do. And if you put a lot of time into those graphics, make them look amazing, add little features that scavenger hunts and things that they click on, different hidden things and find things, that's all good. But it's not, that makes it better than Zoom, like better than just a Zoom. There's nothing wrong with Zoom. I'm just saying it makes it better than just a one-way webinar that's being sort of pushed out at you. What you need is to try and recapture some of that engagement. And that's the hard part. Something like chat, like we've got a chat going on on this call, right? So, I mean, that's one level of engagement that you can tell when you see chat messages going, and it only works for a certain size of an audience. If you have 30,000 people tuning into something, you can't do a stream chat, because then it's more like a social wall. It's not really, you can't have a conversation. But chat is one level of engagement. By seeing people posting in the chat, like, I see a bunch of people posting now, it tells us there's people watching. It tells you, a viewer, that there's something else going on. So I know one of the things we did is, for chat specifically, we would have representatives from the client, from the host company, from the agency, whoever is, and collaborate them all, and have them carry on conversations in the chat, so that people joining would see that sense of, oh, I just walked up to a conversation. And then theme, if you can group them and have like discussion rooms that maybe there's a topic that every breakout you go in has a different chat that has to do with the topic you're discussing. But people don't, when you're in person, there's other challenges too, because if you're in an in-person event, I can walk up to you, we can talk for a few minutes, and then, okay, we'll talk to you later. Well, you and I talk for a few hours and then do that. But when you're on an online virtual experience, conversations don't happen that same way. It's not like you have a dedicated link to that person and you carry on a conversation and finish it. That conversation might last hours, because I might go 15 minutes because I'm watching a show and I don't respond. So, you need to enable these conversations to happen. Make sure that whatever chat tool you're using, especially for a larger event, has the capability of maintaining those private conversations, theme-based conversations, and stretching them out over the time period, and even into post-event. Like, I think virtual allows us to, add to the shoulders of the event, that you can continue that networking experience post that. But chat's just one example. Like, you've got, like, chat is a good one. There's online games and things that we've used. We've done team trivia games. Anything you can do to draw people in and make those connections. There's a great company that a fellow I know, Lawrence, created called Twine, and it allows you to do. You sign up for networking sessions, and they do like these sort of intelligent matching, almost, where you get put into a room, like a private room, where you meet different people, and you've got whatever the parameters you want. You've got 30 seconds or 60 seconds or 5 minutes to discuss on things, and then you set up the topics and you set up the questions that breaks the ice and gets it moving. And then it's up to the people to say, yes, let's exchange information or continue this conversation on. So I think people are really trying hard to innovate creatively these new connections and ways to network in virtual events, to recapture some of what they get in physical events. And I mean, I think it's just getting better. I think we're learning, and the industry's getting better, and they keep coming out with new tools and new chats and new games and new ways to use AI to look at people and match them together.
Yeah.
you need that builds on making it a little more two-way.
And even turning it over, right? So like if you've got an event, it's not the same people meeting at the same breakout. It's, trying to find different people. But the other thing, while you were talking, I was just thinking about this. At a live event, you can go and you can, get people's contact information. You can see them afterwards and you can talk. But you don't have that. Once you get out of the breakout room, you really don't have that information. I'm just thinking, what happens if you were able to, when you registered, put up a QR code of your contact information? And then if you're in the if you're in a chat room, you click the button, the person can click your QR code if you allow them. And I've never seen that. Hello?
I think Kelsey had something important to say.
Kelsey just does that.
I was just going to say that you froze for like 10 seconds, but you're back now.
Am I? Okay. Good. So anyways, it was just, adding a QR code to the contact information. So anyways.
I mean, we used to do that for in-person events. We'd have a QR code for networking on the badges. That was a pretty standard thing, right? So when you meet, then you could do that. We even incentivized it that you got points. Everybody talked about, it was a big buzzword about events around gamification. And everybody said, we got to have gamification. Nobody really knew what it meant. So one of the things that we tried for a customer was to create this game that as you went and scanned things and collected things in the in-person sessions and then in the virtual sessions. And then on the badges, every person that you met and connected with, then you got a point in the game as well. So there was it was sort of that the feedback we got was this is one of the greatest icebreakers ever, that they talked about the game and said, oh, can we exchange codes because we're going to get a point in the game? And it started them talking. So there's always another angle, like you do things and then you get those connections, and it's trying to rebuild those virtually. To do, I don't know that and I tend to think that there is no replacement for in-person events myself. Right. But it's a matter of what can we actually do with virtual. Like there's so many good things about virtual. If let's set that argument aside for a second that says that everybody knows in-person events are wonderful for making connections and networking. Let's set that aside. Nothing can touch it. But there's a lot of cool things about virtual that you can do that you can't do that beat in-person events. So like the biggest one that comes to mind is expanded audience reach. Like that for sure. We saw audiences and registrations for events double and triple when we went virtual. They weren't necessarily, then we got into analytics and say, well, how long did they engage? How many sessions did they watch? Were they there? You don't necessarily have them focused for a day as you would in an in-person event, but you have them coming in, tuning in for the sessions that they want to, leaving. It also changes the dynamic a little bit going to virtual. In-person events were kind of like register, go to the keynote, get a coffee and a muffin, go to your breakout. Like it's a very linear process. When you're dealing in virtual, you could run it that way, but you can also throw that out the window and just say, we're going to allow you to experience this the way you want to. And this content is happening live and this content is recorded and you can experience where you want all the content. And it's not just the speakers and speakers and sessions. We got to think about engagement for the sponsors, because I mean that's the people who's paying for these great big huge events are the sponsors and exhibitors that are showing off their whatever in the booths and the expos and things like that, and creating experiences for them as well that the audience attending can engage with them. So we talk about peer-to-peer networking. Now we're talking about sort of the attendees to the sponsors and exhibitors, and that's a big challenge. And it's sort of like you don't want to put any roadblocks. Like they have to have video, they have to have like written content, they have to have website and downloadable content, they have to have Zoom meetings that you can drop into a chat room and chat with them and then say, oh, let's talk more and let's jump out to an impromptu meeting. Or that doesn't work, let's one-click schedule a meeting for next week outside the event because you want to learn more. So you really need to create as many opportunities for that networking for the sponsors, or they just won't get the leads that they need from a virtual event. So that's a whole nother
Right.
side discussion.
One of the other areas that I think we should be talking about, it's how to walk through a live event, how to walk through a virtual event is a little bit different with both. So with traffic and conversion was just on, huge event. The one that I was just at, again, it's great content, but there's a lot of content. And so you're sitting there for 3 days and you start off writing notes, you fill up a book. A lot of people do. Some people will just, write a page or two, or they'll remember it, which never happens because it's information overload. But for those of us who write, and you're in session 1 and you're writing down those notes, right? One of the things that I found, because I had this happen so many times before I got it, was I would just write and write and write, and then I wouldn't follow up on it. I wouldn't do anything with it. And the book would come home. I have a collection of books that fill up, shelves of conferences I've gone to. I've never gone and...
I think we had Norm paused again.
He's back.
What's that?
Oh. You're
is
freezing.
It you that's back, or is it because I see Josh?
No. Josh and me both. Norm was the only one frozen, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Kelsey and I can take this, Norm, if you want to just drop.
That's usually what happens. He steals my thunder. So, anyways, what I was saying was, over the period of years, I never followed up on all the good content. I got some of it. I learned some of it. But what I do now is I go in, I listen. At the end of the day, there's 3 action points that I'll take. Okay, so it'll be action 1. And there might be 7 people I'm listening to. I'm taking 3 of those action points and going for it. That's the same thing if it's a virtual summit. I'll do exactly the same thing. But the other thing I take advantage of now is I don't have to listen to everything in one day or in one sitting, because a lot of them have virtual recordings. Now, I can guarantee that most of the people here who have gone to events that have had virtual recordings have never, ever logged into that virtual recording. No. So, make it a Saturday morning and go back, pick the 1 or 2 that you really want to get to know, and do that and do the same thing. Action step 1, 2, 3. And you will be shocked at how well, it'll affect your business.
Yeah, I think you're right that, and we've seen that over and over that we have clients who say, well, we want to run this big event, but then we want to take all the sessions, make them available post-event for the next month or week or whatever it is post-event. You're not going to get people sign on and say, I'm going to take these 3 days and watch the event later. Everybody's busy, even on live events with virtual. You can't get somebody dedicated into the event for a whole day. They've got other things. They have distractions. They've got email on their screen. They're at home or wherever they are. You just don't have the same focus. But what you do is you're allowing people to pick and choose content appropriately for what they're really interested in. So that the stuff that they're in, because if they're not interested, they're just going to leave the session, right? Where there's a bit of social stigma that if you're in a small room and with a presenter and you find that person kind of boring, it's a little harder to get up and walk out and, say, I'm done with this, right? And walk out. So with virtual, you can do that. You say, no, this isn't of interest to me. I'm going to leave this breakout and I'm going over to this one to see what's in that one. And you can start watching that one. And then I think there's a lot of advantage. You're right that people won't watch they're not going to digest the whole content of the conference post event at some other time. But what they will do is it's a great tool for people like salespeople and others who attended the event to say, like, Norm, there's a great session on this particular topic that it would be of interest to you, and direct people not to the whole conference, but to a specific topic and a specific breakout. Or, here's a link to minute 24 of the keynote because the next 5 minutes are going to be really good. You should watch them. And we had that turned into a pretty good sales tool that like salespeople would take that content from the event and use it when they're talking to customers and say, here's something that from an event I just attended or one of the events we just hosted, that this section would be really relevant to you. I think you should watch it. It's only 10 minutes long. and then you can start repurposing little bits of that content. And if you created a cool virtual experience, like a nice website or a nice theme, or even those little avatars that move through, like depending on what you did for the event, they can go in, experience going into the event, go to the one session that was going to help them. Maybe they'll go look at other stuff, but it's actually kind of targeted down to that one session that they want to use. So that was a really good use of the of the recordings post event. And I think there's some technologies that are really cool too. Like if you record the sessions, often you can get live transcriptions of those sessions, and then you can use those post event to say, I want to learn about, whatever topic, and you just type in something like shoes, and it'll show, here's all the sessions that use the word shoes. And then you can jump over that and you can read the transcriptions or watch the video or both, or I guess all that technology enables you to get at what you want a little bit better. So post event, I see it more as like that, all that recording, it's a resource. It's not an opportunity to rerun the event.
Right. Yeah, I can even see that with with a private label Legion. Like there's 500 hours of training in there, and it's everything. But where do you even start? But like we use a tool. We've got this really great app, and there's a lot of events that won't allow you to record. But if you do, and if you are allowed to record, there's a tool out there. Paul Baring showed me this tool called Searchy, where you can either record like audio or video, and then you just type in the word. And we use that at Private Label Legion. So if you put in keyword optimization, listing optimization, it'll take you to every video segment, and you just hit the button and it'll start going from there. So you know what? If you could do that at an event, that's a really great idea. I never thought of that.
Then it's almost like you're distilling down all the stuff that you don't want.
There's so much.
There's so much stuff. There's stuff that doesn't apply to you. There's stuff that, and like I said, you don't have the time. When you fly into an event and you check into a hotel and you walk in and get your badge and you go sit in a conference room, they've got you. They've got your attention for the most part.
Yeah.
Right? And you're attending sessions and everything else. But when you're at home or at an office attending virtually, they're like, well, I can give you 2 hours, then I've got a meeting, and then I've got an hour, then I got a phone call, and then I've got some emails, and like you're fighting for their attention. So you need to deliver the content in a way that they can absorb that's meaningful. Otherwise, it's going to be a waste of time.
Right. Yeah. Before we are getting up there, I wanted to talk about one thing for sure. Your thoughts on like hybrid events and hybrid strategies.
Oh, that's fun. It's interesting. And I got the task to be a sort of thought leader for hybrid events at my last company, and do some talks on that for people sort of around the world. And it was interesting that everybody was on this kick that because they just did this big switch from in-person to virtual, that there was going to be a big switch on whatever it is, May 4th, from virtual to hybrid. And it is like suddenly, oh no, we have to deal with hybrid. We got to do hybrid events. And when you start digging into what a hybrid event, I mean, we've done hybrid events for 20 years in some way or another. You could argue like the Super Bowl is a hybrid event, right? You've got people in person and you've got people, millions of people watching virtually. So anyway, I mean, I think when you start realizing the logistics and the cost, like what is a virtual event? Something that allows people, everybody can get the content, that's easy, but it's all the other things. Like I want to ask questions to the keynote and it shouldn't matter whether I'm virtual or in person. I want to have a discussion, meet peers and experience exhibitors. And it shouldn't matter whether I'm in person or virtual. That's a tough recipe. And I think people don't realize just the logistics and the cost to doing that kind of thing. And my sort of prediction is that we aren't going to see this big wave of hybrid events, despite what the industry seems to be talking about it all the time. And every event software on the web that you find now promotes in-person, virtual, and hybrid events. And I don't think people really think about hybrid events. They just think it's a buzzword, but they don't really know what it's actually going to mean And my kind of prediction is the way it's going to go is that you should ask yourself why you want to do a hybrid event. And I don't know that that's the answer. I think a better answer would be, let's have a hybrid strategy for our marketing dollars. And that hybrid strategy is, we're going to have some in-person events. We're going to have some virtual events, and we might do a whole lot of virtual events. But it's a combination of all those things making up an overall hybrid strategy for your marketing dollars, as opposed to investing a huge amount into one event that is actually two events that you're trying to jam together to make one.
Okay, just a second. What is going on here? I'm seeing this stuff about, I know Tinder. What is it? I just saw the word Tinder and I'm going, what is Simon talking about?
No, there's a question that spurred on this topic, but we can get to that when you're ready.
Oh, all right. I just, Josh is just like talking about this strategy, and I'm looking at Tinder. I'm seeing how
Tinder's
Tinder
a
works into the
strategy.
strategy.
It's a strategy.
Is it? I don't know. I don't even know what it is. Oh my gosh. Okay. Hey, before we get into the questions, I do want to talk about one other thing. This is something that you're doing, and it's a training resource. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? And this is before we get into the questions.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I've started up a project called Registration University, and it is interesting. It came from, I'm coming from this worldwide leader in event marketing software, Swoogo, that was an amazing platform that you could do everything for managing the logistics of an event for you. But we had people calling up, 10 people a day calling up and saying, this is how you do it. Like this tool enables you to do it. But why should we, and what should we be doing? And they're asking sort of more strategic questions on, how do I run, if I was a registration team or a customer experience team that was supposed to handle all the attendees from pre-invite all the way through to on-site or checking them in and through the event and post-event and analytics and all that, what should that registration team be doing, and why should they be doing it? And often people turn to agencies to do that, and they'll happily do all that stuff for you. What we're finding was, for every event that's run by an agency, there's hundreds that are not, that are just sort of run by people who are thrust into it. So basically what we were doing is, I've got a whole group of collaborators that are taking their knowledge of running events for agencies and for big corporations and enterprises, and saying, these are the things that we did to run registration and all the elements. And it's pretty detailed. It's not just high level strategic. It's also a lot of tactical stuff, like how we talked about it earlier. How do I decide how many registration or check-in desks do I have? What's the best strategy? What should I get for printers at an event? So it helps you make these decisions of, when I set up a registration booth and I want to print my badges on demand, should I, do plastic badges? Should I do thermal printers where I have to get one, but they're really expensive? Should I design a badge stock that prints on a regular inkjet printer? Which, by the way, is kind of cool, because you can run out to Costco or something in whatever city you're in, buy the printers, use them for the event, and then donate them to a school after. And it's cheaper than if you had shipped them. So there's a lot of neat ideas and neat ways to help you run and execute registration. So that's kind of the whole point of this. And we're sort of taking all the knowledge that we've collaboratively learned and dumping it all into a resource that's searchable, that you can go through and help you understand the high level of, how do I manage and put on an event from that point of view. So that's what we're creating.
Very good. So Kelsey, you throw that in there. I know that's kind of a reach for a lot of our listeners, but I know there's a lot of listeners that put on events. So just check it out. It's a good resource. The other thing I want to see is, Kelsey, I don't know how many questions we have. Do we have questions? I see statements going on along the Tinder route.
Yeah, we have lots of questions coming in. So we can jump into those if you'd like.
Okay, we're getting some feedback. I don't know if that's just me.
Yeah, I think it's okay now. So let me see. First question. Sorry, there's a lot of comments that have been coming in. Okay, from Jessica Rabbit, do the stats show the virtual trade shows or fairs are as successful as the live ones?
No, they don't. I think people realize more ROI from in-person events. They can do that. Although it's actually, you say do the stats. Well, that's an interesting question because right now people are getting more information than they ever knew what to do with. Like right now, when you do a virtual event, I can track every click that somebody does, every engagement with every vendor, every video, every text box they click on, how many minutes did they dwell in any particular video. You can track all that information. You can dissect somebody's journey, whether it's, Norm showed up here, then did this, then did this, or it's my audience as a whole, this is how they engage. So I think with virtual, we got all these stats and then we went, wow, we can't get these with in-person events. So now there's a big push to try and figure out how to get analytics from in-person events so that they can draw more information from them. And there's a lot of subjectivity in the ROI that comes from in-person events. Just didn't have the stats, but I would definitely say that the in-person events, you got a lot more of the connections and sales from it. But it depends on what your topic is. If it's an internal sales kickoff event or a users conference versus an open trade show, there's a heck of a lot of difference in how people are willing to accept content.
What about, I just thought of this, sponsorship, like, is there better return? And I know how long is a piece of string? It depends on what they're charging. But from a virtual event to a live event for sponsorship, do you know if there's a huge difference there?
Well, I know it was a big push to, I think it takes a lot more convincing. I think you get the if it's brand awareness and things like that, you get it in front of a lot more eyeballs because in virtual, you get much more audience reach for Xpanity, even if they're not there for as long as you might think. They're coming in and engaging in some point. So you start putting the sponsorship logos on signs in your digital lobby and on the wait screen before the meetings start, you can put sponsored by. There's a lot of opportunities for sponsorship. Mm-hmm. And you have to really spell those out to people because it's one thing if I had to go into, say, Intel and convince them that they need to give me $50,000 to sponsor some Dell event. Well, it's one thing in person, an in-person event, because they're going to say, well, we get this big booth, we can set up this, we can do this, and they understand it. But if I'm virtual, they're like, well, what are you giving me? You're going to put my logo in one place? So you really got to work hard to show the companies that the ROI is there.
Right.
But I think it is. I think there's a lot more branding opportunities and you get a lot of power by repeated exposures to brand there. So I really think that virtual event has good opportunities for sponsorship for sure.
Perfect. Kels?
Okay, next question from Simon. Do you think that more people are increasingly mindful of the eco impact of air travel and going to do less of it and be more choosy about which event to attend?
100%. I absolutely think they will. I think people are really aware of what they're doing. It also, they realize there's eco impact, which is incredibly important, but there's also other impacts. It's about my time. And I think people are realizing every year that goes by, the time becomes a more precious commodity for people. And if they can have a choice because there's a 1 hour session that's really important to them at an event, they can attend that session virtually, which takes an hour, versus they have to fly, which now takes 3 days or whatever it is. I think there's a lot of people who are going to be looking for that sort of, like we said, it's a hybrid strategy. Some events they're going to pick that are going to be very specific, that they're excited about going to, and they know that there's those networking opportunities there. And then some events are going to be, I'm only interested in this one section. I don't need to go there. I'm just going to join virtually. So, I think people are going to get that mix. We actually thought of a cool way to do it too, which was rather than having the in-person event drive these virtual events, virtual ways to connect and absorb content later, we said, what if the virtual event drove the physical event? And so we were saying, like, let's have a virtual event, and the whole event is virtual. So we're going to record all these things, but we're going to look at where the pockets of the registrants are and say there's a whole lot of people around Chicago and there's a whole bunch of people in Florida. So we're going to say, or near Orlando, we're going to go find a venue there and we're going to book a space and we're going to have one of the keynotes present live from there. And we're going to book a venue in Chicago because there's another big cluster of people there and we're going to have an event there. So you have these mini networking events or evening events or keynotes that are in different cities where your attendees are, so they don't have to fly as much. And it's an interesting way to sort of rethink how you might execute an event.
Okay, so I'll let you guys hear the Tinder question that came up. So from Simon, of course, Simon is one of our lovable Beard Nation members. Marketing is relationship building. Some of the biggest websites are dating sites. They create virtual relationships initially. The hookup happens later. Could this be the future for trade events?
I think he means in concept. That yeah, you find people and meet people virtually that you want to meet, and then when you're in person, you can show up at the event and say, oh, I made a connection with Norm, and in fact, there's a lot of people who are digging into that right now. There's a lot of companies that are doing that AI-based matchmaking for business opportunities. So they look at your whole background, they looked at your LinkedIn profiles, they looked at what you've done, where you work, what your job is, and then they look at what sessions you signed up for at the conference. So they'd say you're in this breakout, so we know you're interested in this topic. And then they use AI to match people up, and then you have an opportunity to make these connections beforehand. And then when you get to the event, you say, okay, well, I've got a keynote to go to, and then I've got at 12:15, I'm meeting Norm at table 14. And you set up these sort of, whether it's one-on-one, or we've done a lot of meet the speakers this way as well, where there's certain key groups that we want to get together. And we actually schedule time for those networkings, that you met them online or met them virtually, but then you schedule time to actually meet in person to have those discussions that you want. And you already know you've got the common underlying thread of connectedness.
I hate eating by myself.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. We just have a couple more to go through. One from Jessica Rabbit. Question for Josh: would you do more smaller events or fewer large events? Why?
That is a good question. I think that it really depends on your product and your market and what you're doing. I'm a big believer of doing small events and repurposing content and cost. Like if I was doing a smaller event that was targeted to a specific audience, then let's create that content and let's set up the event and let's do it small and let's throw it on a road show and let's run it in the major cities across the country. Spaced out by a few days. You can even change keynote speakers, so you're not flying the person from place to place. You can have somebody local at each area, and we've done that, and then interspersed it with recorded videos of other keynotes on a screen. So, I mean, I think there's lots of power in those small events because you get really close networking opportunities. But there's that said. There's a certain vibe around big events when you have big production value and excitement, and there's a hum in the air about it, and people get really excited and they're in the mood to network. They're ready to connect and learn and make relationships with other people. It's an awesome experience. So there's certainly a place for big events as well. So I think it's a matter of looking at your overall budget for the year of what you've got, what you think you like to invest in marketing. Looking at what you can offset with that with sponsorship dollars for events, because there's lots of ways to raise money to offset the cost of your events so that the event is either a net zero or close to it. And then plan it out. And I think it's a mix. I think, maybe you've got one larger event in the year that if you've got a big enough following user base, then customers, then let's make a recurring event that you can build on. And it might get a little bit bigger every year. but that's your flagship event. And then through the rest of the year, you have a rhythm of small events and virtual events that sort of build out you as a platform or you as a brand.
I can tell from my own experiences that I like going to the larger events. You get sort of, you get lots of content. It's not always the content that you want, but it's a big event with tons of content, and you make lots of connections. Then there's the mid-size events. Usually they're a bit more expensive. You get there and it's drilled down again. You get to know the people a bit better. But by far, and we've done them where we've had 16 people, 8 people have been trainers that have come into an event. 8 people are people who are learning, and each day people are learning from, or half day people are learning. Those are the events that I've seen people just kill it, knock it out of the park. Like you go back, you have, like I know Kevin came to an event that Dave Kettner and I had, and he spent a half day with everybody during this event. Well, how much would you pay for that? And, I know that the people that he helped, by the time they left, things were happening, especially for this one couple who I met actually at this event, and they came to the first event, which was about 3 years ago, which was kind of cool because they got to tell me what they, how they experienced it. Those are the type of it, but those typically are much more expensive. I can tell you personally that the event that changed me in the Amazon field was an amazing event. It was called amazing.com, where Jason Katzenbeck had a thing out in Mallorca. And it was a small group, about 30, 40 people. I got to meet all sorts of people, Dima Kumaric, Tomer Rubinovich. These are guys that were very good friends to this day. But then from there, I flew over to the Illuminati, which is now Helium's elite. And I got to meet Kevin, Manny, and Elena, all these people. This is my life now. From 2 events that I met people from and started to network with. It cost me a ton of money. And my wife still kind of, slaps me in the back of the head. But what came out of those events was so much. Like it literally was gold for the last 5 years. So I just want to say that because there are different types of events, and some you might not want to spend the money on. But if you do, and you can mind map it all out, you'll see that a lot of the times it works out way, way more, 10 times, 100 times, way more in your advantage.
Absolutely. And I think just to what you said, there's certainly place for those small intimate events, right? Where you get just a key focus group. And we even do that sometimes at the same time. Like I did a big one for Salesforce where we had, there was thousands of people out on the streets at part of this event. But then we kind of distilled them down through visitors and things and ways to get them down to like a nightclub that had in the evening that was filled with salespeople. And we're down to 150 people in that. And then from that, we had chosen this group of 10 people, and we called it like a founder's dinner. And we moved them outside to a neighboring, fairly high-end restaurant, but gave them a private room, put some very influential people in that room, and they had this very small experience, just like what you're saying. You get 8 people in the room. I think they had 12. But then that was such an impactful night. It was only supposed to be 2 hours long for the whole dinner. And then the restaurant had to kick them out 3.5 hours. They finally said, look, we're closing. But the conversations that come out of those small groups, when you get these really influential people put in there that sort of are the seed to the whole conversation. And it starts off that these people coming in, I want to meet this person, or I'd love to have a conversation there. But then as the conversation flows, inevitably these people, everybody's just people, and they just start talking, and the ideas that come out of it and the connections are just, you can't replace them.
I got to add one other thing.
Yeah.
The people that you talk to are the people sitting by themselves. I'm telling you, where you get the best relationships are the people who have come, they might be a little bit shy, and you go up and say hi. Those are the people, first of all, they appreciate that somebody's come up. Now, some just don't want to talk to anybody, and they'll tell you to go fly a kite. that doesn't happen. I mean, I haven't had that happen, but most people are might be shy. They might be from a different country. They might be flying in, but you'd never ever know who these people are. And they can open up a door. You can become a friend. Those are the people that, like, there's a lot of people like my partner, Tim Jordan. He's out there. He taught. I mean, he's just got this natural gift, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got other people that I see, including I'm an ex. Oh my God, I always said an excrement.
I can throw out adjectives and stuff if you want of what you are.
Oh my God. Anyways, I am not one that goes out and just talks to a ton of people. I'd much rather, I am by myself all the time. But anyways, if this is one thing that I've learned, one thing that I practice is I go out and I talk to people that are usually by themselves or sitting by themselves. Just go up, say hi. And the people that I've got to meet on an incredible, like, just major knowledge have been those people. Not everybody, but I'm just saying that you never know who you're going to be sitting beside.
I totally agree. I do that same thing. Go up to people, and a really important trick is that you talk to them, but your goal should be to learn about them.
Yep.
Not go up and say, hey, I do this and I sell for this and this is what I like. They can deal with salespeople who are outgoing. That's not like the basis. Like, you go up and you genuinely want to learn about that person and who they are and what they bring. That's the spark.
That's correct, Josh. Was it? I don't know if it was with you. I think it might have been. We went to an event during our days of our similar friend. Anyways, I think there was this one guy that came up to us. He says, "Hey, my name is so and so." He shook out hand. He reached out with his hand, and he says, "And I made." And I don't know what it was, $200,000 last month. And it was actually a photocopy of his check.
Yeah, I remember that guy.
Like, why are you doing that to begin with? Like, just, anyways, I think that's it for questions, right, Kels?
Got one final one if you want to tackle that.
Yep, sure.
One. Okay, from Simon. 20 years ago, most experts said that people would never switch to internet shopping versus going to brick and mortar. Should we listen to these experts when it comes to virtual seminars and versus live conferences and events?
That's a good question. I there has been a move. Like, look at the world. Look at Amazon. Look at Walmart. Look at what everybody's doing around us and building these empires of online shopping. But there's still people who want that experience, that personal. Do I want to try on a shirt, or do I want to mail order it and get it tried on and send it back because it doesn't fit? Or there's a certain experience of being in that shop. And I think what it's going to do is it's going to make the bricks and mortar stores reinvent themselves a little bit. That they know, if you go buy a book online, you can get it for 40% cheaper than if you walked into a store. And it's the same book, even the same retailer. And it's cheaper to buy it online from their online store because they don't have to warehouse it. They don't have to all the other things about keeping in stock and have the floor space and other costs. So, I think there's a lot of room for people. People are becoming smarter with stuff. So I think there's a really cool opportunity for these bricks and mortar stores to reinvent themselves, to make them like, this is what we have in the store. And then you can maybe, I don't know, idea brainstorming here, but I mean, you could come into the store and have an experience around the product, and then the product's waiting for you at your house when you drive home or something like that. So there's like a combination of the two. I think there's a lot of cool opportunities for retailers.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's it for questions. Thank you so much, Josh. All right, is it time for the Wheel of Kelsey?
I think it is. Josh has never experienced it.
Oh, he is in for a treat. All right, here we go. Here's the Wheel of Kelsey.
It's time for the Wheel of Kelsey.
All right, of course, the Wheel of Kelsey is brought to you by my older brother, Hayden Farrar. Thank you again for creating this. All right. So this is for the Centurion League membership, Norm and Tim Jordan's mentorship program, as well as a Lunch with Norm mug. And so I'll go shuffle them up. 3, 2, 1.
This is great.
All right.
Who got
All right. Simon.
Oh my gosh. So Simon, there you go. You got another free month in Centurion. So I guess I don't have to say anything. Simon won it last time. What are the chances, What are the chances?
Obviously pretty good.
And Kelsey, make sure you get his address because we've got to send him a mug.
You got it, boss.
All right. Okay, sir. I think that's it.
Norm, it's been great talking. We need to talk more.
We do. We have to go out for a breakfast and talk or a lunch.
That's right. That was always our thing of breakfast halfway between our houses.
That's right. So, it was really great having you on. I wanted to talk to you more about this. Actually, the name of the company that you were representing, it was Swoogo,
SWOOGO. I can put in the comment.
There are people that are here, like the Sharons of the world, Amy Weiss. There's people that listen that do put on events, and they should check it out because it's an incredible app for putting on live events. And don't have anything to do with it, but check it out. It might be able to help you out. And I think that's it, my friend.
Yeah.
I can't wait to sit down and talk to you. Maybe get another business going with you somewhere down the line.
Absolutely. Good opportunity for selling pearls in an online store.
Yeah, I remember that one. Okay, buddy. I will see you later. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So thanks for joining us today. I know it was a little bit off because it's not something that a lot of us will do as live events, but we wanted to kind of merge that together and show you, the difference between the live, the virtual, what to look for, just kind of everything about it, not just setting up a live event or a virtual event. But on Wednesday, we're going to be having our brand expert back. People love this. They send in their logos, but this is going to be with Michael Kurtz again. He's going to be joining us for a third time. And I think Kelsey said that we've received a bunch of logos already, so we're going to be ripping through them. So that's on Wednesday. Kelsey, anything else?
Yeah, so if you are interested with sending us your logo for Friday, just send it to k@lunchwithnorm.com. So it can be your logo, it could be packaging, it could be your branding. It's really anything. It's a great episode. I think whenever we do the episode, that's when we get a big hit of logos and stuff. So it just makes everything easier if you send it to us beforehand. So k@lunchwithnorm.com, and we'll get to give you some feedback about your logos and branding.
Okay. So what were we supposed to do, Kels? Smash like buttons, subscribe to our channel, do all that stuff. And also today's Monday, so if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, which is just content, just go to lunchwithnorm.com or normfarrar.com and sign up, and it's every Monday. So today there's a new newsletter going out. And other than that, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, noon Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. And thank you for being part of our community. We couldn't do this without you. See you next time.
Lunch with